Hey there, and welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're plunging into a topic that's, well, not just technically fascinating, but also profoundly impactful. We're talking about how AI can be built from the ground up to be ethical, efficient, and to genuinely help humanity in some really high-stakes situations. We're going beyond the headlines today, looking at a groundbreaking framework called iLuminara. We've got a stack of incredibly detailed sources for this deep dive. Everything from technical architecture flowcharts, detailed mathematical equations, even research papers validating real-world performance. Think of it as a kind of comprehensive blueprint for truly principled AI. Our mission today, to unpack how iLuminara tackles some of the biggest challenges, specifically in humanitarian aid and ethical logistics. We want to reveal its unique innovations and why it represents such a significant leap forward in AI development. Get ready for some serious aha moments as we explore how these complex systems are really designed to put people first. So when we talk about AI in the real world, right?
Especially in critical areas like, say, disaster response or ensuring ethical supply chains, it's just not enough for the AI to be smart. It has to be right, and it has to be fast. But there's this huge, often unseen problem many systems face. It's something the iLuminara team calls the policy program synchronization crisis. Imagine trying to deliver aid in a crisis where, every hour counts. This crisis really highlights the disconnect between the big picture policies set way up high and the actual programs being implemented on the ground.
It's not just theoretical either. What's fascinating, and frankly a bit sobering, is how deeply this crisis impacts real-world outcomes. We're talking quantifiable harms here. Our sources point to some really striking statistics. For instance, in disaster responses, we see a shocking 31.7% aid diversion.
Wow, nearly a third.
Exactly. Nearly a third of critical aid just not reaching the people who desperately need it. Then you look at mineral supply chains, often, riddled with ethical concerns. There you see 17.9% compliance breaches. And across the board, this ethical misalignment costs a staggering $2.3 billion in annual losses.
That's huge.
It is. And these aren't just numbers on a page. They represent real delays in life-saving aid, they perpetuate exploitation, and they're huge financial drains.
So those are staggering figures. This synchronization crisis isn't abstract at all. It has very real, very human consequences. But what specifically causes this breakdown? What are the root issues creating that gap?
Exactly. And the sources identify three core root causes. First, there's something they call the observer effect. Think of it like this. When you're being watched or measured, your behavior changes, right?
Yeah.
Well, in auditing systems, this leads to about 23.4% audit distortion. The very act of measuring compliance actually skews the results, making it harder to get a truly honest picture of what's happening. Second, there's lighthouse decay. Imagine a lighthouse beam. The further it travels, the weaker, the more diffuse it gets.
Okay.
It's similar with ethical signals or policy directives. They can degrade by as much as 40% as they move across different tiers of a supply chain or a humanitarian operation. The original intent just gets lost or watered down along the way. And finally, there's temporal misalignment. This is critically important in fast-moving situations. It manifests as a 14.7-day average lag. That's the average time between a new policy being set and its actual implementation on the ground.
14 days in a crisis.
Exactly. In a disaster zone where every minute can mean the difference between life and death, a 2-week delay is just catastrophic. It means decisions are based on outdated information or aid arrives way too late.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit further then. These are massive systemic issues. They seem almost inherent to complex operations. So the big question is, how does iLuminara, with its innovative approach, specifically address these deeply ingrained problems? Misalignment, ethical drift. It's one thing to identify them, but quite another to really solve them. And this is where it gets really interesting, isn't it? Because iLuminara isn't just tweaking existing AI systems or like adding a patch here and there. It's built on 4 patented mechanisms designed right from the ground up to directly counter these synchronization problems we've just talked about. It's a fundamental reimagining of how AI can operate with a moral compass.
Precisely. And these aren't just theories. They are operationalized solutions. Each one is designed to tackle a specific challenge head on. Let's dive into them. First up, we have HSTPU bounded decision windows.
Okay, HSTPU.
Right. Think of this mechanism like a built-in expiry date and a kind of geographical fence for every single AI decision. Decisions are only considered valid if they fall within a strict 72-hour time window and a 50-kilometer radius. It's like a digital tether, ensuring the AI's recommendations are always contextually relevant, always fresh. This is especially crucial in what they call lagged environments.
Lagged environments. Can you give us a quick example? What does that mean?
Absolutely. Think about NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory lunar experiments. You send commands to a rover on the moon, right? There's a significant time delay in communication. Decisions made here on Earth need to remain valid and useful even with that lag. So iLuminara applies that same kind of rigorous thinking to humanitarian aid. By enforcing these spatial and temporal constraints, it effectively reduces that temporal misalignment, the policy implementation lag we mentioned, by an astounding 99.9%.
99.9%. That's incredible.
It means when the AI says do this, it's highly confident that this is still the right thing to do right here, right now. Next, there's vulnerability-weighted ethical penalties, or VWE. This is really at the heart of iLuminara's approach to bias resolution and ethical AI. Instead of just aiming for some general fairness, which, can sometimes overlook the most vulnerable groups, iLuminara uses a sophisticated ethical loss function.
Okay, an ethical loss function. How should we think about that? Is it like the AI's internal moral compass that it's constantly trying to optimize?
That's a great way to put it, yeah. It is the AI's internal compass, but it's one specifically calibrated to account for vulnerability. The formula itself, lethics, is disparity. The key part is that a portion of the AI's penalty or loss is directly proportional to how much disparity exists and how vulnerable the affected groups are. The lambda value is crucial here, set at 0.35, and very carefully calibrated to prioritize those most at risk.
So it actively weights towards the most vulnerable.
Exactly. This specific weighting helps resolve complex issues like the Arcelor-Kahn bias paradox, where traditional methods might inadvertently penalize or overlook highly vulnerable subgroups. The result: a measurable reduction in inequality, the Gini coefficient, goes down by 0.21 and 0.03, and crucially, it keeps any subgroup disparity below a 5% variance. It ensures truly equitable outcomes. The third pillar is HSML logged chain of thought, OJ. This mechanism creates an immutable, unalterable reasoning trail for every single decision the AI makes.
Like a black box recorder for the AI's thinking.
Kind of, but completely transparent. It's like having a perfectly clear, tamper-proof audit log for every step of the AI's thinking process. It uses robust SHA 256 logging and adheres to strict NIST standards for security and integrity.
That sounds incredibly powerful for accountability and transparency. So if there's ever a question about why a decision was made, you can essentially just rewind the AI's thought process.
Exactly that. Full transparency, full auditability. And the operational benefits are significant too. It slashes blockchain storage needs by 78%, a huge efficiency gain, and dramatically reduces supply chain disputes by 92%. It provides this verifiable end-to-end record from the moment a decision is committed all the way to its final production in the real world. You can trace everything. And finally, number 4, active inference optimization. This mechanism is grounded in Carl Friston's free energy principle. It's a fascinating concept from neuroscience, actually, suggesting that living systems constantly try to minimize surprise and uncertainty in their environment. iLuminara operationalizes this principle.
Okay, so the AI isn't just making predictions. It's actively trying to reduce its own uncertainty about the world. And, by extension, help humans reduce their uncertainty too.
Precisely. It's about minimizing the difference between what the AI expects to happen and what actually happens, and then constantly updating its understanding based on that. The free energy equation, Fs, log Bs plus dkLQs, that's the mathematical framework behind it. But the real-world impact is profound. In crisis simulations, this approach has been validated to reduce responder anxiety by 31.6%.
Wow.
Yeah. When human responders have an AI that actively minimizes uncertainty, giving them clearer, more reliable expectations, it significantly enhances their sense of agency and reduces stress in those incredibly high-pressure situations.
So these aren't just abstract technical specs. They're direct, measurable interventions against very real-world problems. And crucially, they have clear benefits for both efficiency and, maybe just as importantly, human well-being and agency. It's about giving people on the front lines more confidence and less stress. Now, the philosophy behind iLuminara, it extends beyond just these 4 pillars into its actual architecture, right? It champions this software-dominant approach, boasting a remarkable 80.2 software to services ratio. Can you help us understand what this really means for the system's resilience and cost effectiveness? It sounds like a bit of a departure from many modern AI deployment models.
It really is, and it's a strategic design choice with massive implications. This HSTPU HSML split means the core intelligence, things like their parakeet TDT model, the ethical loss functions, those HSTPU HSML protocols, they're primarily self-contained software libraries. They're not heavily reliant on external cloud services or constantly calling out to third-party APIs for their core functions.
So less dependent on a constant internet connection or external infrastructure, making
Yeah.
it more robust in challenging environments.
Exactly. That significantly minimizes cloud dependencies. Critical for deployments in remote areas, disaster zones, places where connectivity might be spotty or non-existent. The sources show this enables an impressive 96.3% compliance even in totally offline simulations.
That's vital.
Absolutely. It also drastically reduces vendor lock-in, offers a significant 63% cost reduction compared to models heavily reliant on expensive ongoing cloud services, and get this, allows for lightning-fast 5-minute edge updates.
5 minutes to update the AI in the field.
Yep. Imagine being able to push crucial updates to the AI models in minutes, right where they're needed. The system also uses a sophisticated hybrid compute strategy. Think of it like having a specialized pit crew for a high-performance race car. For the heavy lifting, the really intensive training and fine-tuning of the AI models, iLuminara uses powerful, stable GPUs that are widely available, standard workhorses. But for the actual race, for the high-throughput inference where decisions need to be made in real time, at scale, it shifts gears.
So different tools for different jobs, optimizing for what's most critical at each stage.
Precisely. For that lightning-fast, real-time decision-making, iLuminara prioritizes these cutting-edge GPUs that offer superior memory bandwidth and precision. The result is up to 57% faster inference latency. This dual GPU strategy is paired with a hybrid cloud approach, too, using powerful cloud services for the heavy training, but then a more distributed, cost-effective cloud setup for globally available inference. It's all about smart resource allocation. And what's truly fascinating here, maybe a major breakthrough, is how iLuminara seems to be shattering traditional AI scaling laws.
Shattering scaling laws. What does that mean in practice?
Well, usually to get state-of-the-art AI results, you need exponentially more training data and just massive amounts of computational power.
Right. The bigger's better approach.
Exactly. But Illuminara's 32 billion parameter model, which is substantial, but not compared to some giants out there, achieves top-tier results with far fewer training FLOPs. That's floating point operations per second, basically a measure of compute power used.
So it's like getting supercar performance, but with, I don't know, a regular car's fuel consumption.
That's a perfect analogy. This efficiency means Illuminara can cut training costs by an additional 40–50%. It massively amplifies its return on investment projections up to 3.5x, which also aligns perfectly with sustainability goals. It's about working smarter, not just bigger or harder. And to make it basically foolproof against potential supply chain disruptions, a very real concern today, it uses multiple strategies. Things like relying on small, highly curated datasets, which cuts data needs by 50% compared to typical baselines, using parameter-efficient adaptations, diversifying its GPU contracts across multiple manufacturers, robust edge deployment.
So building in redundancy and efficiency at every level.
Pretty much. It's a comprehensive approach ensuring resilience and operational stability, even if the global chip markets get volatile. It's built for consistency no matter what.
These aren't just abstract technical details, are they? They have massive real-world implications for how AI can be deployed reliably, affordably, sustainably, especially in resource-constrained areas or during emergencies. It really sounds like a system designed to be truly resilient and independent. Okay, it's one thing to have innovative architecture, impressive specs, but what truly matters is the impact. Right? Illuminara has been rigorously tested. You mentioned the sources detail, an incredible 18,700 simulation runs in these advanced digital twin environments, plus extensive field trials. What have those results actually shown us about its real-world performance?
Well, the results are compelling and, importantly, statistically significant. Across both humanitarian and logistics operations, we're seeing some genuinely transformative improvements. Let's talk compliance and efficiency. There's a huge 38.2% gain in overall compliance. That's significant on its own. But critically, misallocation in aid, that diversion we talked about, slashed by 65.2%. It drops from nearly a quarter, 22.7%, down to just 7.9%.
So that's aid getting where it needs to go.
It's exactly. More life-saving aid reaching the right people. Disaster response latency, cut by 27.3%. That brings average response times down from over 71 hours to just over 52 hours. Crucial time saved. And that policy update lag we discussed, the one that was a painful 14 days.
Yeah.
Reduced to just 18 minutes.
18 minutes from 14 days. That's almost unbelievable. A 99.9% improvement.
Astonishing, isn't it? That alone completely changes the game for crisis response.
Absolutely. And what about the financial aspect, the costs?
On the cost reduction front, the results are equally impressive. Audit costs for ensuring ethical supply chains, slashed by 70.4%. That drops from over $2 million down to about $600,000. Think about the resources freed up there, money that can go to direct aid or core operations instead of complex auditing.
Definitely. And the human impact. You mentioned responder anxiety earlier.
Yes, the humanitarian impact is clear and validated. Thanks to that active inference mechanism, there's a documented 31.6% reduction in responder anxiety, and alongside that, an 18.3% enhancement in their sense of agency. When people on the front lines feel more confident in the information they have, feel more in control of their actions, it makes a profound difference to their mental well-being and their effectiveness.
That's huge.
It really is. Then you look at ethical alignment. The system achieves an impressive BOI 9-1 alignment score with the OECD AI principles that's well above the 0.75 requirement. And with those plenty for efficient reductions and subgroup disparity consistently kept below 5% variance, it's genuinely delivering on its promise of equitable outcomes. Oh, and remember the observer effect.
Yeah, the act of measuring, changing the results.
Right. The sources highlight significant observer effect mitigation, a 23.4% reduction in that audit distortion. So the system is providing more accurate, more reliable evaluations because its presence isn't skewing the data nearly as much.
What's truly fascinating here is seeing how these, quite technical solutions directly translate into such tangible improvements. It's everything from lives saved and resources optimized, right through to increased trust and reduced stress for the people actually doing the work on the front lines. It's a powerful testament to principle design. This whole deep dive into iLuminara really makes you think, doesn't it, about the broader landscape of AI development, AI governance. It forces us to ask a pretty important question. What does iLuminara's approach really mean for the future of AI itself, especially as we grapple with designing AI that truly serves humanity?
It's a crucial question, absolutely, and iLuminara offers the distinct perspective. It seems to shift the focus towards prioritizing tangible principles and constraints over some of the broader, sometimes more abstract ethical discussions. This means clearly defining what needs to be optimized, things like agency maximization, equitable outcomes, and defining what needs to be strictly bounded, like those decision validity windows or bias thresholds.
So it's less about just trying to be good in a vague sense, and more about having measurable objectives and clear, non-negotiable guardrails for how the AI behaves.
Exactly. Principles like active inference for reducing uncertainty or vulnerability weighting for equitable outcomes or ROI-driven utility. These are treated as optimizable objectives, things the AI is constantly trying to improve upon. And then you have the hard constraints, the HSTPU validity windows for decisions, the HSML logging for immutable records, those strict bias thresholds keeping skew below 5%. This whole approach is designed to rigorously avoid human bias paradoxes and ensure verifiable, enforceable guidelines. It ensures the AI's operations are both effective and accountable. And if we connect this to the bigger policy picture, iLuminara aligns strongly with key aspects of, for example, America's AI Action Plan, the one outlined by the White House in 2025. It seems to amplify over 65 policies that focus on accelerating innovation and building out infrastructure, supporting that drive for efficient, perhaps lower regulation AI in certain contexts. And importantly, its use of HSTPU and HSML protocols could enable things like free speech in large language models by bounding content contextually based on time and place relevance, rather than resorting to outright censorship. That potentially counters unintended surveillance or control.
Interesting.
It also takes a very strong, maybe even countercultural stance on human agency. iLuminara explicitly misaligns with the idea that AI tools should primarily aim to replace entry-level talent. It's not its goal. Instead, its core focus is on preserving human roles and enhancing human agency through what we call human-in-the-loop, or HITL, feedback loops.
That's a really important distinction.
Yeah.
So the AI is designed to augment human capability, work alongside people, not just automate their jobs away.
Precisely. AI supports and empowers humans rather than displacing them entirely, and these HITL feedback loops are shown to reduce automation harm by 38.2%. It strongly aligns with the vision for task-specific AI models. Models train on smaller curated datasets that need far less computational power. This means AI can be developed and deployed specifically for tackling humanity's grand challenges. Think climate change, poverty reduction, disaster response, without perpetuating resource inequalities or requiring these massive energy-guzzling infrastructures that are simply out of reach for many parts of the world. It's about empowerment, not overwhelming concentration of power.
This really is a truly thoughtful and, I think, inspiring look at how AI can be designed with purpose, balancing that cutting-edge technology with a deeply considered human impact. So there you have it, our deep dive into iLuminara, a framework that's not just pushing the boundaries of what AI can do, but fundamentally rethinking how it should be built for ethical real-world impact. We've seen how specific technical innovations like HSTPU-bounded decision windows, HSML log chain of thought, Active Inference aren't just lines of code. They're powerful tools that demonstrably reduce anxiety, cut the misallocation of critical aid, and synchronize policy with action in vital humanitarian and logistics operations. What we've learned today, I think, is that cutting-edge AI can be about so much more than just raw power or processing capability. It can be about principled design, about measurable ethics, and about a profound commitment to human agency. It's about creating systems that are not only intelligent, but also trustworthy and deeply aligned with human values and needs. We hope this deep dive has given you a useful shortcut to being well-informed on this, with plenty of surprising facts and maybe a few aha
moments to carry forward. And here's a final provocative thought for you to mull over. What if the true future of AI isn't really about simply making models bigger or just throwing more and more data at them? What if, instead, it's about crafting smarter, more principled architectures? Architectures that put human agency and real-world equitable impact front and center, ensuring technology truly serves humanity's grand challenges without inadvertently making existing inequalities even worse. Something to think about. Thanks for diving deep with us today. We'll see you next time.